Thank you, Greg. It's great to be back in Owensboro Health. When I was last here, we didn't have a vaccine. If you go back a year ago this month, we had sent everyone home, all across America. In the Senate, beginning in my office, we were wrestling with what to do about two things that were intersecting. One was a 100-year pandemic, and the other was the advice we were given by public health professionals to literally shut the economy down and send everybody home. So we had both a healthcare emergency and an economic emergency simultaneously. Out of that grew, in spite of the fact that we were in the middle of a presidential election year, extraordinary bipartisan cooperation. There were 5 different bills passed, the largest of which was the CARES Act, that cleared the Congress with very little opposition. Several of them passed unanimously in the middle of a presidential campaign. So I was proud of the Congress' ability to respond to this extraordinary emergency that we were faced with. We tried to tackle it on every front, but clearly we knew at the beginning that the only way we would ever get past this was with an effective vaccine as rapidly as possible. And so a significant part of the bills that we passed last year were for what was called Operation Warp Speed, aptly named. We got to get there as rapidly as possible. I was a polio victim when I was a youngster, and I'm fully aware, as I grew up, how long it took, decades, literally decades, to develop a vaccine to end the polio epidemics that we would have periodically in our country and around the world. So I must tell you, honestly, I was a little skeptical as to how quickly we could get to a vaccine. It's a modern medical miracle that in late December, we started shipping the first vaccine, and now we have 3 vaccines, 2 of which are 90% effective or more, one of them 70% or more. And to put that in perspective, I didn't realize until this year that the flu vaccine is only 50% effective. So extraordinary effective rate being disseminated rapidly. And all of it, up until the last bill, right before the previous president left office, a $900 billion additional bill, done largely on a bipartisan basis. So where are we this year? When the new administration came in, 10 of my members, Republican members, the Senate went down to meet with President Biden to talk about what we thought we could do on a bipartisan basis consistent with where we are now, not where we were a year ago. And it involved roughly $500 billion, which is still an enormous amount of money. So let me just talk a minute about the national debt. After what we did last year, we now have a national debt of $27 trillion, which is the same size as our economy. That's only happened one other time in American history, and that was during World War II. So we already have an extraordinary amount of national debt. Clearly, last year, because of the 100-year pandemic, we could justify doing that. By the time we reached this year, we had 3 effective vaccines. We were moving in the direction of opening up the economy. And my view, and the view of almost all of my Republican colleagues, was the size of the bill should reflect where we were now, not where we were a year ago. And so this became a partisan exercise. And in the end, the $1.9 trillion bill the President signed a couple of weeks ago had no Republican support in the House or the Senate because we thought it was anchored in conditions a year ago rather than currently. to show you how much of that money was spent in a way that I think is unrelated to the current crisis, 1% of the 1.9 trillion is for vaccines. 9% of the 1.9 trillion is for health care, what they do here at Owensboro Health. The rest of it, arguably, is unrelated to the condition we find ourselves in now. And so we're in a different place in terms of a totally bipartisan view of what we need to do to finish the job. Clearly, the job will be finished, as I just learned from the folks in the room in our meeting, is we need to get to herd mentality. What's the word?
Herd immunity.
Herd immunity. Roughly 75% of the population. And so I'm trying to encourage everybody to get the vaccination. I had seen a piece on television saying that Republican men were somehow reluctant to get the vaccination. As a Republican man, I wasn't reluctant to get it when I was eligible, and I would encourage everybody to do that. And there may be some segments of our population that still have some reservations about this for one reason or another. But what I heard from these healthcare professionals behind me is there's no real good reason not to get the vaccination. And the sooner we can get to 75%, the herd immunity, and get our economy up and open, the better. In the meantime, I think the advice of everyone is let's continue to social distance and wear a mask as we move toward, hopefully, by sometime early summer, being able to put this whole experience in the rearview mirror. With that, I'll be happy to throw it open to see what you'd like to ask about.
Hi, my name is Katie Terzak. I'm with 14 News WFIE. I'm the local NBC affiliate here in town. So first, just had a few questions for you. One thing I wanted to ask is, Indiana, our neighboring state, they'll drop from a mask mandate to a mask advisory starting April 6th. So my question to you is, do you think Kentucky should still be under a mask mandate moving forward?
Well, I've not second-guessed the governor's decisions on those. I think every state has had slightly different view, so I wouldn't give the governor of Indiana any advice either. And as far as the governor of Kentucky is concerned, I generally supported his decision on that.
Okay. And then do you think Kentuckians and Americans should get a fourth round of COVID relief money?
Well, I just said that I thought about 1/4 of what was recently done would have been appropriate for where we are now. And I am alarmed about the size of the debt. It's one thing to go into debt when you've got a 100-year pandemic, but you saw the president just yesterday in Pittsburgh recommending we're going to do it again. With a combination of massive tax increases on businesses and individuals and more borrowing to add even more to the $2 trillion national debt, I think that's a big mistake. And I think that package that they're putting together now, as much as we would like to address infrastructure, is not going to get support from our side, because I think the last thing the economy needs right now is a big whopping tax increase on all the productive sectors of our economy. Remember, February of 2020, just a little over a year ago, we had the best economy in 50 years. The principal reason for that was the tax reform package we did in 2017, which drove the rates down for corporations, for individuals, and for those who were producing the jobs that were benefiting everybody in the country.
Okay, and then what about Owensboro vaccines? You know, obviously, local news, we've been working hand in hand with Owensboro Health. Many